This conference is being recorded.
Okay, we're being recorded now. Okay, good. This is the parashah Ekev, and it's in Deuteronomy 7. It starts with verse 12, and I'm gonna just talk a little bit about that to be in line with what we should do in season every week. There's a portion of the Torah that we should cover a bit. All right, so I'm going to give you just sort of a little snapshot of that. All right. Parashat Ekev, Moses continued his final speech to the Israelites just before they were to enter the promised land. It begins with, and it will be because, Ekev, you heed these judgments and guard and do them. The Lord your God will keep you with the covenants and the steadfast love that he swore to your fathers. In other words, as long as the Israelites obey the commandments of the Torah, they will prosper in the land they are about to conquer. It's the same familiar theme, right? As long as you obey, you'll do well, just as the Lord promised to their forefathers. All right. Kev comes from the shoresh akav, to take by the heel, all right? As does the name Yaakov, who had grabbed the heel. And where do we see the word heel first in Scripture? This is interesting. First. And where? Genesis, exactly. He will bruise your heel. But, of course, Messiah will crush the serpent's head. So you have this connection. Here we are, Yaakov. It's not a coincidence. These things happen in Hebrew all the time. That the body of Messiah would start off with Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Yaakov, the one who grasps the heel, all right? And Satan is still striking, isn't he? The body. but we have the ultimate victory because Yeshua is our serpent slayer. Right? His name was changed from supplanter to Israel, which has various meanings, one of them being, of course, the prince. Prince, right, with Yah, Prince of Yah. And the promise was this: you have striven with Elohim when he was wrestling with the angel, which is really Messiah in his pre-incarnate, called Melech Yah, Melech, the angel of Yah, but also you can see that as the king, King Yah, because it's the same word. So he wrestled with him, and his name was changed to Israel because he prevailed. So the first occurrence of the root appears in Genesis 3:15, where the Lord prophesied that even through Mashiach's heel, though he would be bruised, the very head of Satan would be crushed. Yeshua is our serpent slayer. It sounds like a title for a song or something, doesn't it? Serpent slayer. Like that, like album cover. It's a possibility. All right. So, it's a basic theme. We hear it over and over again. Obey and you'll do well. Right? The parashah begins with the call to Shema. Shema. That means to hear, but in Hebrew it also means to obey. It's that instantaneous. You hear, you obey. Right? And also to Shamar, to guard. Guard the judgments given in the Torah. As a reward, the Lord will likewise guard the covenant. If we guard his word, then he will guard the covenant that he makes with us. And he will love us. That the Lord God gave, the covenant that he gave to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Obedience to the commandments will yield plentiful children, harvests, livestock, and all sorts of other material blessings, as well as spiritual. The Israelites would be blessed above all peoples, free of every type of sickness, living in victory in the promised land. So, there's a lot of promises if we'll just walk in his word. Okay? And it says that the people were not to live in fear, especially of the 7 nations that surrounded them. They were supposed to exercise faith, recalling what the Lord did to Egypt, remembering that he delivered them there. He says, so will the Lord your God do to all the peoples of whom you are afraid. You shall not be in dread of them, for the Lord your God is in your midst, a great and awesome God. Okay, so that's that. That's the snippet on the parashah. Okay? All right. There is a lot going on in the heavens. The big topic right now is this, what's being known and called the Great American Total Solar Eclipse. Okay? A lot of talk about this. Both good and bad. All right? And I'm going to go over some of that. I'll talk to you about that. Seems like a lot of the opposition about these signs is coming from believers. You know, Christian scholars like to debunk stuff and say, oh, it don't mean nothing, these things happen all the time, or something like that. It's ridiculous what kind of opposition you get about these things. But let me just read some of this to you. On August 21st, coming up, just a week from now, there's going to be a total solar eclipse that will cross the entire United States, beginning in Oregon and ending in South Carolina. Now let me tell you what's going to happen that day. Okay, this total solar eclipse is going to make it so that you're going to see stars in daytime, about 3 minutes. You're going to actually see the night sky. Crickets will start to do their thing. You know, you'll hear crickets. Birds are going to get quiet because they're going to think it's nighttime all of a sudden, right? And the bursts that you see in the sky, we don't ever see them, but when the sun does its explosions and things, little things that fly off the sun, you'll actually be able to see those. If you have the proper glasses, you can look up and you'll be able to see sun flares. Okay, so this is the reason why people are booking hotel rooms in the Midwest from all over the country. I would even say probably from even all over the world. there are people who are interested in this and are hearing about this. It's such a spectacular and astounding event that they want to be here to see it. Okay? So, it's going to begin on the west coast. Now, this is, I don't understand how this happens, but the sun appears to rise in the east and set in the west, but somehow eclipses travel in an opposite direction. And I honestly do not understand that, but we're going to find out on the 21st. In other words, people will witness a black sun rising over the United States. It has also been noted that another total solar eclipse will cross the United States on April 8th, 2024, coming from the opposite direction. So instead of going from the north, coming from the northwest, it's going to be crossing from, I think, the southeast or something. I've done this. I've already seen this, but I think it goes from the opposite direction completely. So it makes a perfect X in the same spot over the United States 7 years later. All right? So the amount of prophetic meaning behind these eclipses is overwhelming. Basically what we're going to do, I'm just going to tell you some things that people have discovered, and you can make it up your mind for yourself whether this is something that's that's noteworthy. Okay? Number one, this eclipse occurs exactly 33 days before the Revelation 12 sign that's going to occur September 23rd. All right? Exactly 33 days. It begins in the 33rd state of our union. Oregon was the 33rd state. And when it ends, it's going to cross the 33rd parallel of the latitude in South Carolina. Okay? The latitude on the globe, when you look at it, it's the 33rd that crosses South Carolina. So, interesting. 33, 33, 33. Also, in 1918, we had a similar total solar eclipse that came across the United States 99 years ago in 1918. 99 is 3 times 33. So what is this 33? Why? Okay. Well, somebody suggested take a look at Ezekiel 33. Well, here's what Ezekiel 33 says. And this is interesting because I want to say this. Before I read this, before I had found out the details about this, about 4 or 5 days ago, I had a dream. I woke up, and the phrase that was in my mind was, "I'm coming with a sword." Okay? Unrelated to this solar eclipse thing. That's what I had in my heart. Was, tell the people, I'm coming with a sword. Now listen to this. Ezekiel 33. The word of the Lord came to me, Son of man, speak to your people and say to them, when I bring the sword against a land, and the people of the land choose one of their men and make him their watchman, and he sees the sword coming against the land and blows the trumpet to warn the people, then if anyone hears the trumpet but does not heed the warning, and the sword comes and takes their life, their blood will be on their own head, since they heard the sound of the trumpet but did not heed the warning. Their blood will be on their own head. If they had heeded the warning, they would have saved themselves. But if the watchman sees the sword coming and does not blow the trumpet to warn the people, and the sword comes and takes someone's life, that person's life will be taken because of their sin, but I will hold the watchman accountable for their blood. Okay. All right. Second point about this total solar eclipse, the Great American Eclipse they're calling it. Here's the second point. The eclipse is also exactly 40 days before Yom Kippur. What's the significance of 40? 40 is the number of testing. It was 40 years in the wilderness. 40 days and 40 nights of Noah's flood. 40 days and 40 nights that Yeshua was in the wilderness. All right. So 40 days. It begins actually the month of Elul. When this total solar eclipse takes place over our nation, it's going to begin the month of Elul, which is that month of introspection in Judaism when you're supposed to be examining yourself, judging yourself, as the Brit Hadashah says, that you not be judged. 40 days leading up to the day that represents our judgment day, Yom Kippur. Okay, third point. While eclipses are not that uncommon, total solar eclipses only occur about every year and a half and often occur over the oceans, not land. But don't let anyone fool you into thinking that this eclipse is nothing out of the ordinary. Day will be turned to night across the middle of the United States. And it's been 99 years since a total solar eclipse crossed the entire United States. And having another total solar eclipse cross the United States again 7 years later, making an X over the country, it should give us pause. Okay? You have to remember, see, people that don't understand that these are significant things, they're just, oh, this is just a scientific thing, it just happens, okay? Genesis 1:14, take a look at it for yourself. If you have a Bible, open up your Bible and let me help you understand this from a Hebraic, a Judaic, a biblical perspective, why you need to pay attention to these things, all right? Genesis 1:14, look what it says first. Why the heavenly bodies were created. The very first thing you'll find, it says they were created for signs. Yes, for seasons. Yes, for days and for years. But that word signs,
Caller has joined the conference.
that word signs is
Caller,
otiot.
Kelly
Hi, Kelly.
has joined the conference.
That sign, that word signs is otiot, and it is Strong's number 226. And let me just give you some synonyms for that word when you look at it, okay? Signs is a signal, a flag, like, when somebody's waving a flag. A beacon, like the lighthouse beacon, so you don't hit the rocks. Monument, big thing, okay? Omen, good omen, bad omen, okay? Prodigy, evidence. A sign is evidence, okay? We're supposed to pay attention to signs. When there's a sign, a moon that turns to blood, and it happens on a Jewish festival, moons are signs for the nation of Israel. Why? Israel follows a lunar calendar. When there is a solar eclipse, it is a sign to the nations. Why? Nations follow a solar calendar, all right? And it's just Hebraically understood. When you've got a moon eclipse, it's for the nation of Israel. When you have a solar eclipse, Yah is talking to the nations. He's giving this nation a sign. Okay? All right. I'll give you another point. It's been noted that the United States is the wealthiest, most powerful, and most influential Gentile nation. Right? Who would argue with that? It is also the world's ethnic melting pot. It hosts a proto-world government in the form of the United Nations. All right. So, here we have this sign occurring, and then we have 7 years later crossing again over the United States. Pay attention to the signs. Don't be silly. Don't be silly like some of these theologians. Some of these theologians, they're out of touch with the Hebraic roots of their faith. Will say it doesn't mean anything. Okay, have some sense. Have some sense. Number 5, the tribulation. I think we've been in the tribulation, quite honestly. I don't think I'm going to read this point. I'm not sure if I quite agree with what they're saying. I think we may have already seen some tribulation. A number of things have already happened. Yeah, I'm going to skip this. Except for the fact that it crosses over a spot called Little Egypt. It's kind of weird, some of the things that this thing is doing. Some of the names of the towns, like, what is it called? John Day, and which takes you to Revelation, the writer of Revelation, and crosses over a little town called Southern Illinois. The town was called Little Egypt long ago. The eclipse occurs in conjunction with Regulus, the king star. This is interesting. This is an interesting point. King star in Regulus, it's inside of Leo. Regulus is the brightest star in Leo, and Leo is one of the two constellations involved in the coming Revelation 12 sign, which I'm going to talk about in just a minute. The fact that this eclipse occurs in Leo, which will be part of the great sign the month later, is interesting. Plus, Jupiter is a king star. Jupiter, because it's the largest one in our solar system. And that's the one that's been bouncing back and forth inside of Virgo since November. And when it comes out, it'll be 9.5 months. Something that's never happened before, by the way. As long as people have been studying the stars, they've never seen Jupiter do this for so long. Okay? Month and a half, maybe, but never 9.5 months. It's like, Yah's trying to fix our attention on the king. Regulus, king star. Jupiter, king star. All right. I think I've covered most of what's mostly interesting about this. Yeah, other stuff. All right, for expediency purposes, let me move on to the next sign that's coming. And people are trying to debunk, always get them debunkers, those theological debunkers, right? Here's the claim. On September 23rd, a unique astronomical alignment of the Sun, the Moon, constellation Virgo, constellation Leo, the planets Jupiter, Mars, Mercury, and Venus is going to fulfill this passage in Revelation 12, verse 1. And a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. She was pregnant and was crying out in birth pains and the agony of giving birth. All right, now listen. A number of self-appointed bigwigs and experts have tried to debunk this Revelation 12 sign that's going to occur September 23rd. They've resorted to bullying tactics and misinformation. There's a lot of that on Facebook too. People get bullied, they get angry when you disagree, and they pass out all this misinformation and expect you to swallow it, okay? And it's caused division and a lot of hurt. Yet their attempts haven't been successful, and here's why. Okay, here's why, because people know better. Number one, the author of Revelation 12 describes an actual celestial event. Read it for yourself, okay? He doesn't use similes. He doesn't call it a parable. He describes the actual sun, moon, and stars, which are real objects in space. There is nothing in the text that states the description is not to be taken literally. Okay, I find it telling that most of the debunkers this time are actually Christians. It's not surprising. It happens all the time. And not only that, but they're Christians who claim to be trusting in the truth of God's Word and who would otherwise say that they use a literal hermeneutic. It seems to me that they're being extraordinarily assumptive and changing and twisting what the Bible plainly and unmistakably says. It's not good. Number two, the puzzle pieces are unmistakable. There's no guesswork involved. The text mentions the sun, moon by name. The constellation Virgo is the only constellation in the ecliptic that represents a woman. When it says the woman, okay? John's not saying Virgo, but it's the woman in the heavens, right? And it's the only stars directly above Virgo's head are the stars that are in Leo. On top of that, Jupiter is the only object in the sky that can remain in Virgo's womb for the exact length of a human pregnancy, and it just so happens to universally represent the chief male deity, Messiah, Jupiter. That's why when the Magi, when the wise guys 2,000 years ago, they read the stars and they came to Herod and said, "We've been looking at the stars," they were seeing something. From my studies, I found that NASA has actually pinpointed that there was a conjunction of Regulus and Jupiter at that time that came together in the fall. Most likely that's what they were seeing. It caused the sign of a very, very bright star happening in Virgo. All right? And they knew that it represented the coming of the Messiah. I believe that this also is representing another sign of the second coming. All right? A lot of people believe that based on this. Now, some people have taken issue with the claim that Leo, with Mercury, Mars, and Venus, equals 12 stars. You know, Leo is usually 9 stars. But when you put together Mercury, Mars, and Venus, you have 12. It's true that some depictions of Leo have 10. Okay? And some have 13 and some even 15. But the most widely circulated depiction of Leo always shows 9. All right, you'll find it in most astronomy programs and books and in most planetariums. You can do a simple Google search for yourself and see that it usually has 9. All right, so this sign is unique. It's about a dozen or so supposed matches that have been presented from other years, but only the one of 2017 perfectly matches the description in Revelation 12. Okay, get this. See, I didn't pay attention to this for a long time because I'm somebody that does take a look at the constellations. I've done a study on the Mazzaroth, and I know that there are many times when signs show up, and you know, I didn't take a real good look at this to see how unique this was until just recently. All right, listen to this. There was a near match of what John describes in Revelation 12 in the year 3915 BC, meaning that it occurred before he wrote it. All right? But even that occurrence was not as precise as the one we're going to see this coming September 23rd. All right? The alignment doesn't just fit the description, it fits it so precisely that once you take a look at it for yourself, you will see it for yourself too. You've got to look into this. People say that the moon is under Virgo's feet every year. Well, that's true, but this isn't a very accurate statement because the moon is oftentimes very far away from Virgo's feet. At this particular time, the moon could not be closer to Virgo's feet. All right? It's extremely close. In 2017, the moon is pretty much as close to her feet as it can possibly be. The alignment of Mercury, Mars, and Venus in the woman's crown is also extraordinarily precise. More precise than it was in the BC year. This thing is incredible the way it's come together. All right? It's incredible. In other words, the crown is just about as perfect as it can be. And also, as I said, Jupiter does sometimes dance inside of Virgo. When she's been seen to do this, sometimes she'll jump outside of Virgo. But it only lasts about a month and a half at times. This is the first time in history that Jupiter has stayed inside of Virgo for 9.5 months, which is the time of a late pregnancy. Okay, it's just incredible. All right, so I think that's enough of that. I just want you to understand this is a very, very rare occurrence, and we've got this total solar eclipse 33 days prior and 40 days prior to Yom Kippur, and then this fulfillment of Revelation 12 that's occurring this year. Now, what does it mean? These are signs, okay? I'm not going to tell you Messiah is coming. I'm not going to say it's whatever. I'm just telling you, we need to pay attention. I know that what was put in my spirit was he's coming with a sword. So it's time to get things straight. Whatever it is in your particular life, as you know, you need to get straight because time is running out.